the coronavirus pandemic struck the world in early 2020, and it has never been the same since. People lost their lives, lost their loved ones, and for prolonged periods, lost their livelihoods. This video in no way, shape or form is designed to make light of the coronavirus pandemic in itself, but try to look at, I guess, a bit of a silver lining, or the good things that were able to happen within society during this time. Today, we're going to be looking at the top 10 NRL games during the pandemic era. So this is from round 3, 2020 to the end of the 2021 NRL season. I sincerely hope that we do not have to make another video like this again. During this period, rugby league provided an outlet for many people that were struggling and locked down. What we're going to be doing today is looking at the games that I guess made us forget about COVID, even just for a little while. They contain the moments that mesmerised us, even with the world how it is. I'm Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion, and this is the top 10 NRL games of the pandemic era. We'll kick things off with our first entry, but I want to emphasize before we start that this is not a ranking video. This is just the top 10 games during the pandemic era. For me, of course, you can comment below which one of these games is your favorite, if I missed out on a certain game, but this is not a ranking from 10th to 1st. This is just the top 10 games. To be honest, it'll be very hard for me to be able to rank these games. But we kick things off with round 8, 2020, between the Melbourne Storm and Sydney Roosters. The Melbourne Storm, unfortunately, before this game, were forced to relocate from Melbourne to Brisbane temporarily. They would end up staying on the Sunshine Coast, the home of their feeder club, the Sunshine Coast Falcons, for the duration of the 2020 NRL season, actually go on to win the premiership. They would not return to Melbourne until after the 2020 NRL Grand Final. For them to make this move so quickly and still put on what many people still to this day say, and were certainly saying at the time, could be the greatest NRL, not necessarily throughout the whole 100 plus years of the game, but the greatest game of the NRL era, and it's just about hard to top that. Maybe there are a few other options in this video, but there are many who believe this is it. Two of the stalwarts, the two most successful teams of the NRL era, which is quite fitting. The Storm would beat the Roosters 27-25 in extra time golden point. The scores would be locked at 25-all at full time, with both Ryan Papenhuyzen and Luke Keary kicking field goals in the 79th minute of the game. And who else but Cameron Smith, the former Australian captain, kicking the match-winning penalty goal in the 84th minute to seal the victory for the Melbourne Storm. Moving on now to the second game in the list, and it is a very familiar matchup because it is the most recent NRL matchup we saw in the Panthers versus the Rabbitohs, but it is not the 2021 NRL Grand Final. It is the 2020 preliminary final where the Penrith Panthers defeated the South Sydney Rabbitohs 20-16. I was lucky enough to actually be at this game and ride the wave of emotion throughout. This was a close game. From what I remember at the time, though, it was very much an error-filled game, and it felt like that whoever won would be going on to verse the Melbourne Storm in the grand final. It felt like if either team turned up with that performance, they would definitely lose to the Storm, and one of the teams did. But that's not to take away from the entertainment value of the game and just how close it was. The Rabbitohs getting an early lead through Alex Johnston, but within the first 10 minutes, Brian To'o would strike back for the Panthers. At halftime, Penrith had the advantage 14-6, but this is the thing. In the second half, Penrith sort of dropped off a bit. You could argue South Sydney were the better team in the second half, but Penrith just did enough to hold on and win this game 20 points to 16 in what is one of the top 10 games of the pandemic era. Now on to the second week of the 2020 NRL Final Series, with the Canberra Raiders defeating the Sydney Roosters and in a way getting their retribution for the Grand Final in 2019, defeating the two-time defending premiers, 22 points to 18. Throughout 2020, from the preseason right up until this point, I'd actually tipped the Roosters to win the three-peat. If they could win 2 in a row, they changed their side up enough for me to win 3 in a row. However, it was not to happen, and it's quite fitting, I guess, that it happened at the hands of the team they beat in the previous year's Grand Final. What was shocking about this is not the close score of 22 points to 18, or even necessarily the fact that Canberra won. I remember watching this game, and despite the close scoreline, Canberra did not look like losing. Canberra were in control for the duration of the match, and the Roosters did not look like they were on Canberra's level. The defending premiers, the defending two-time premiers, did not look like they were on Canberra's level. Canberra would go on to win the game. This would lead to many people actually believing that they would defeat the Melbourne Storm in the 2020 preliminary final. Spoiler alert, they didn't. They actually got beaten quite handily. Sorry if you can hear the dog currently walking into the room. That's a little pitter-patter you can probably hear on the floor. If you can't hear it, then I am talking absolute nonsense. But the Roosters would unfortunately be eliminated and not win their first competition in about 3 years because of the Canberra Raiders. 22 points to 18. Wow. That last match between the Roosters and Raiders was so good, we might as well stick with the Roosters and Raiders. Round 10 of the 2020 NRL season. The Canberra Raiders defeat the Sydney Roosters 24 points to 20. Why was this such a big occasion? Why does this make our top 10? Well, for one, the Roosters in pretty good form as they usually are. This was the Grand Final rematch. I believe it was the first time they faced in 2020, so I believe this was the rematch, as it were. Canberra weren't in the best of form at the time, though, to the extent where it was expected that the Roosters would win. And it was a bit of a shame leading up to the game because it was like, well, it was a relatively close Grand Final. Canberra earned the right to be there. They were contenders. But they really don't seem like they are anywhere near the Roosters' level in this game. Canberra did get the early lead, but would eventually fall behind after a Brett Morris double and a Matt Ikuvalu try. However, in the 65th minute, the most unlikeliest of try scorers, I guess you could say, or maybe not, due to the career he has had in the NRL and the esteem most of us hold him in. Josh Papali'i, Canberra's prop forward, would crash over to score and secure a victory for the Raiders, 24 points to 20. A shocking upset, a grand final rematch, and a close game of rugby league makes for the perfect concoction to make this top 10. Let's move on now to our second meeting between the Penrith Panthers and South Sydney Rabbitohs on this list. And yes, it is the 2021 NRL Grand Final. The Penrith Panthers winning their first premiership since 2003, their third as a franchise in the National Rugby League, taking out Wayne Bennett's South Sydney Rabbitohs in his last game as head coach at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic and the lockdown, and it is a credit to the NRL that they were able to move the competition to Queensland on very short notice and stay there for the rest of the season. I just thought I'd get that in there, especially because this is the first game we are looking at from 2021 and undoubtedly the biggest. As the Panthers defeated the Rabbitohs 14 points to 12, Penrith led 8 points to 6 at half time. You don't often get a close, low-scoring game like this in the modern era without there being plenty of errors and missed try-scoring opportunities throughout. And don't get me wrong, there were some in this game, but this game was dominated by defence. These two teams were so good. One of them just had to rely on that little bit of luck to get there in the end. Cody Walker is a fantastic player, arguably had the best season of his career, deservedly one of the top 5 ranked in the Dally M Metal points tally. But unfortunately, he was the one who gave Penrith that slice of luck, as it were, with Stephen Crichton taking his intercept and scoring to, in the end, win Penrith the game. Alex Johnson would score in the 73rd minute to give South Sydney that little bit of hope. Unfortunately, captain and former premiership winner Adam Reynolds would not be able to convert from the sideline, mind you, and Penrith would hold on to be your 2021 NRL premiers. I'm being honest here. I know this may sound stupid, but as I said, we haven't seen many low-scoring games in the modern era that wasn't plagued by mistakes, wasn't plagued necessarily by missed try-scoring opportunities. And that's why this is, in my opinion, one of the greatest professional rugby league games I have ever seen. Now let's look at a fixture between two teams that have already featured on this list, but not against each other. So Penrith Panthers defeating the Melbourne Storm 12 points to 10 in round 3 of the 2021 NRL season. The grand final rematch, Panthers Stadium, with less restrictions on the crowd. I believe we're at 75% at this point. Over 14,000 to see this one. Melbourne take an early lead. The Panthers hit back, 6-all half time. 64th minute, Josh Addo-Carr goes over to score, gives Melbourne the lead. Melbourne, probably the better team for the majority of this game. But a Kurt Capewell try in the 78th minute, and a great defensive effort from Viliami Kikau, securing victory for the underdogs in the Penrith Panthers in this one, and securing their revenge against the Melbourne Storm. Let's quickly jump back in time to 2020 now, and the 2020 NRL Grand Final. We are sticking with the Panthers v Storm fixture. On this occasion, Melbourne will get the chocolates though, and it would be on the grandest stage of them all in terms of club rugby league in Australia. Melbourne winning 26-20. I was, fortunate enough to be at this game, I'll admit, as a Penrith local, as someone who went with immediate family members who have been diehard Penrith fans all their lives and members of the club. This one stung a little bit. That is nothing at all against the Melbourne Storm, who were, in my opinion, far and away the better team on the night, despite the 6-point margin. Melbourne led 26-0. 45 minutes into this game, a Ryan Pappenhausen masterclass. He would go on to deservedly win the Clive Churchill medal. Penrith would fight back, though, and it wasn't necessarily the most flashy fight back. It was a gritty fight back, and that's the entertainment value. Would they, won't they? Nathan Cleary actually scoring Penrith's final try in the 79th minute, waving away the opportunity to kick a goal because that would have chewed up the clock too much and the game would have ended. That's how close it was. Penrith getting one last shot from the kickoff, unfortunately not able to do enough to score and then convert a try to take us to extra time. Cameron Smith, one of the greatest of all time in my opinion, in his final match, lifting the Proven Summons trophy for the Melbourne Storm for the last time. So you want me to jump back forward in time. You want to go back to 2021. Okay, well, I guess back in time by the time this video released in 2022, but forward in time based on the last installment. Okay, but you want me to stick with Penrith versus Melbourne because it's been such a great fixture over the past couple of years. All right, I think I've got the thing for you. The 2021 preliminary final where the Melbourne Storm would lose to the Penrith Panthers 10 points to 6. Melbourne dominant throughout the 2021 NRL season. Penrith dominant for at least the first half, then a sort of up and down period. But they were the hot team heading into the finals, I must say. But then they lost in the first week of the finals to South Sydney. Don't worry, they'd get their revenge. Why am I saying that like I'm whispering? We've already covered the NRL Grand Final from 2021. But the Panthers win 10 points to 6, really getting their revenge on Melbourne from the year before by eliminating them from the final series. If things continue on this trend, then South Sydney will eliminate Penrith from the finals in 2022, although I really don't see it happening. Penrith winning this one, as I said, 10 points to 6. Stephen Crichton scoring in the second minute. 6-0 at half-time. Brian Toto scoring in the 42nd minute. Ryan Papenhuyzen scoring in the 62nd minute. The 2020 Clive Churchill medalist. And that was it. Penrith were able to hold Melbourne out after the season Melbourne had. For them to not only not win the premiership and go back-to-back, to not even make the grand final, at least at the time, was astonishing. And the team who caused that to happen was the team they beat in the grand final the year before. I wouldn't call it karma because it's not karma beating a team in a grand final and winning the premiership. But let's just say Penrith got theirs back against Melbourne. Can we skip this one? I mean, really, was it that good of a game? I don't even know why I've got it in the list. It must be a mistake. I really don't want to talk about this game. As most of you would know, some of you won't. I'm a Gold Coast Titans fan. I know, what the hell is wrong with you? The first week of the 2021 NRL Final Series, the Sydney Roosters beat the Gold Coast Titans 25-24, or as I like to call it, they beat them by a missed opportunity. God. So the Roosters beat the Titans 25-24, by the way. I hate Sam Walker. He kicked 2 field goals for the Roosters to beat the Titans just about on full time on 2 occasions, 35-34, funnily enough, earlier in the season, now 25-24. When they meet in 2022, I swear to God, if he kicks a field goal for the Roosters to beat the Titans 15-14, I don't know what I'll do. But this is what's happened, unfortunately. Patrick Herbert, I get it, under a lot of pressure. The last play of the game, I think if many of us were in his position, we would have made the same decision or not known what we were going to do under that pressure. I should say. I'm losing my words over this. 3 choices. Pass the ball to David Fafita for a guaranteed try. Pass the ball to Corey Thompson for a guaranteed try. Hold on to the ball and back yourself. I'd say about an 80% chance of a try. If he just put the head down, ran straight for the line, there's a good chance he would have scored, in my opinion. But I wouldn't really say the third choice was taken. I wouldn't really say any choice was taken. I don't know what choice was taken, maybe choice Z. But end of the day, in the finals, if you win a game, you usually deserve to win. Despite the Titans having the last opportunity of the game, the Roosters were probably just the better side throughout. I'm going to go and cry now. Let's just pause this for a moment. I'll be back for the last entry on this video. I've just got to go and cry for a little while. Last entry on this list. The Penrith Panthers defeat the Parramatta Eels 8-6 in the 2021 semi-final, or the second week of the finals, elimination final, whatever you want to call it. Bit of controversy around this one, obviously, the end of the game. A lot of people say it was rigged for Penrith to win or Penrith cheated. Honestly, it was a trainer who made a mistake that in the end you cannot guarantee, in my opinion, either way, denied Parramatta winning the game, because I'm pretty sure at the time Penrith were up 8 points to 6. Parramatta had ample opportunity near the line to score, and this is nothing against the player himself. This is simply what happened. Junior Paulo dropped a fairly easy ball that he should have caught, and that cost Parramatta the game. Unfortunately, well, that didn't even cost Parramatta the game, because if he held onto the ball, there's no guaranteeing he scores a try either. A great game overall. Unfortunately, marred in controversy. Now, this one, you know how I spoke before about how there's rarely a close game that's not errorful or that teams missed opportunities to score. This one was full of errors and missed opportunities for both teams to score. On paper, at least it seemed whoever was going to verse Melbourne the next week was going to lose. But Penrith pulled it together and managed to beat them. Obviously, we've spoken about that game. Do I think Parramatta would have been able to, despite beating Melbourne twice in the year, in that situation, in a prelim final? I don't think they would have been able to. But Penrith winning this one, 8 points to 6. And the thing is too, whilst it was errorful football, whilst there was multiple missed opportunities to score from both sides, it made the game entertaining, and there was a great defensive effort from both sides too. So there we have it. The top 10 games of the pandemic era, at least from the NRL. Again, I'd like to re-emphasise at the end of this video that this video is not intended in any way, shape or form to make light of the pandemic, but try to highlight and reminisce about at least the little good things we had during this time, the things that maybe allowed us to forget about the world for a little bit, at least for 80 minutes. Other than that, I've been Oliver from Rugby League. In my opinion, it would be amazing if you could subscribe to the channel, like this video, comment on it, and share it around with your mates. As I said, I am Oliver from Rugby League, in my opinion, and I'll see you next time.